So I actually prepared a letter. Two different friends were asking two different questions about two different issues, but they were both essentially the same issue. So just actually thought I would just read it pretty much verbatim. So the quote from the friend, not the whole letter, the quote from the one friend is, quote, "I gave up on Buddhism a while back. I don't call myself a Buddhist, nor do I practice any aspect of it. I think the temple just showed me the worst in it and what the reality of it is. Not just here, but everywhere. I'm sure there are good people involved, but human nature is not inclined to act in any manner that is original to the teachings." Now, keep in mind, this is someone I used to give tours with at the Buddhist temple, and he's always been a little bit sensitive to, how poorly practiced the Buddhism was. But you can hear this what would you call it? Apathy, nihilism, sadness. The same thing I felt with my friend the other night. So for this reason, I wrote this to try to give them an idea, because I talked about this, that I've gone from people just asking me questions. It used to be, oh, well, no, well, what about this and what about that? Now it's simply not about Buddhism. It's not even about religion. It's just questions about faith, right? Why I don't seem to have problems with faith, but I seem to be, I don't want to get into that side, but it's just the idea in the letter. So I'll proceed. So my response was, "I apologize for not responding to your reply immediately. I assumed you either didn't get the email or weren't interested," right? What this was about is I forwarded a video from a fellow Buddhist. He does YouTube videos. The two of us don't really watch his stuff because he's really not, like I've talked about, right? There's good Buddhists and bad Buddhists. But he was talking about how little practice there seems to be within Buddhism. What he saw in Japan is really not that much different from here, and it seems to be the world over. So what I said was, honestly, I wouldn't have been surprised if he didn't want to have anything to do with the video. But I said, still, what Brad said will resonate with you, which is why I sent it to you. In fact, this ties to what I'm quoting, why I'm quoting what I did above. I hate to say it, but what you said could be said of every single philosophy or religion out there. Just yesterday, I had trouble getting AI to find something for me. I eventually found it myself and realized why AI couldn't help. It can read books, but it can't read past the paywalls of certain newspapers. What I was searching for were 2 interviews with Karen Armstrong, an ex-Catholic nun. It's interesting because she lost her faith in the Catholic Church and organized religion, yet her story holds deep resonance. Karen Armstrong joined the convent before the Vatican II reforms, so this was before the 1960s. Later, she went to Oxford, and when she left the convent, she re-entered society during the countercultural revolution of the 60s. She stopped believing in the institutional church, but not in goodness, in God, or whatever term you might use to describe ultimate meaning. She once shared an interview where a reporter asked, "Why did you stop believing in God?" Her reply, "What are you talking about? I only left the church. I didn't stop believing." This connects deeply with what I've often said. I've always found myself in a niche where no one can mess with me. My Yogacara Buddhism. I don't entirely fit with Christians, but I don't oppose their core teachings. I don't fully align with Vedanta either, though there's very little I disagree with. I adore Buddhism, but there are aspects I find wanting. Still, that doesn't mean I have to reject all of these systems wholesale. The real problem is that people approach religion expecting to be told what to believe. As J. Krishnamurti pointed out, rather than using religion as a framework to discover what they hold to be true, in nearly every language but English. Faith implies devotion, not blind belief. That's why Buddhism often resonates with people, though many forget that. As Buddha himself said, if something seems ridiculous, throw it out. This is why I find modern Stoics and new atheists wanting. Look at John Vervaeke, for instance. He's trying to create his own religion because he was so upset by traditional ones. A friend of mine shares a similar story. He was treated poorly, both religiously and personally, in his youth. And now he carries an animosity towards faith. He sees it as some sort of blind, anti-human force. But the issue isn't faith itself. It's how faith has been practiced. Many traditions stop doing the real work. There's a Hebrew mystical understanding that Jesus came to preach precisely this. People were following rules and rituals, but they weren't practicing morality, compassion, or humaneness. This is evident in the temple story from the Gospels. This brings us to an important question. Are we going to become apathetic, as Nietzsche warned? Or will we adopt a sense of meaning and purpose, like the old man in the movie Secondhand Lions? In that film, the old man tells a young boy, it doesn't matter if the stories are true. What matters is believing in them. He talks about things like good triumphing over evil and true love lasting forever. Not as absolute truths, but as things we choose to make true through our belief. The real problem today is that we don't believe that good triumphs over evil, so we allow evil to flourish. This lack of belief is widespread. Most people I speak to aren't looking for affirmation anymore. They're interrogating me about how I can live without the pain of uncertainty. A friend recently told me he needs to come to terms with the idea of dying and there being nothing beyond. He asked me, how can I be at peace with impermanence in the non-self? Here's my answer. Faith is not blind. It's not certain of anything. But I am certain of uncertainty. Humans often fail because we catastrophize, imagining the worst possible outcomes. Early Christians were apocalyptic for this reason. Trauma, as we now understand it, isn't about the event itself, but how we process and carry it forward. It's ressentiment to Nietzsche. Far too many people are traumatized by their interactions with others because they're disconnected from themselves. I recently wrote about this for a friend. He's deeply hurt and damaged, much like what Mel Gibson described in a recent interview. Gibson said his brain scan showed activity as if he were constantly in a life-threatening situation, even at rest. This aligns with research in the book Brain Energy. It is a work that ties chronic illness and inflammation to mitochondrial issues. The lesson here is that the self is both our greatest tool and our greatest hindrance. That's from the Gita, as well as many other places. It's the cause of our suffering and the reason for our blindness, whether through laziness, fear, or ignorance. Carl Jung once said that modern man stands at the edge of a void. That void is potential. Most of us avoid it, clinging to the past because it's comfortable and narratively organized. The future, by contrast, is uncertain and scary. But that's where potential lies. Religion, when understood as a personal path or dharma, helps us reshape the future into something meaningful. Of course, no plan survives first contact with reality. Carl Friston suggested that mental illness often stems from ignoring what our brains or reality tells us, clinging instead to a preferred narrative. Nietzsche, often misunderstood, was right when he said the secret to survival is to treat everything as ordered, to love your fate, amor fati. Albert Camus took this further, arguing that life's absurdity doesn't negate the possibility of finding meaning in simply existing. For me, impermanence and non-self are liberating and empowering. Jung observed that every patient over 35 he treated suffered from an ennui, a modern malaise that they couldn't attribute the cause to. And what Jung said, he said every single one of his patients were cured by adopting a religious view in life. That's not adopting a religion. That's seeing the awe and the wonder in life, treating everything as ordered, a divine spark in everything. Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory, a television show, once quipped that he doesn't fault his mom for her faith because physics shows that if any one of a million variables were slightly different, life wouldn't exist. Even my friend, who has no faith in God or religion, can find meaning by living for himself or his family. As Christ said, the ultimate commandment is to love yourself, your neighbor, and all creation as divine. Jordan Peterson's debate about God missed the point. linguistic relativity shows that concepts of God vary widely. My idea of God aligns more with Buddhism, a recognition that personality is a construct and that true essence lies in a spark, whether you call it Atman, Buddha nature, or something else. But that doesn't mean that Jordan Peterson has one idea and Vivek Ramaswamy has another and I have yet another. I think it's teaching us the idea that as we grow and evolve, our understanding of ourselves and others evolve alongside our concept of what the nature of the divine is. And ultimately, what matters is valuing this essence. Carl Jung recognized this truth a century ago, and it's more relevant than ever. The future is a gift filled with potential. Our task is to embrace both the good and the bad, seeing them as part of a greater whole.